And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube Live. I'm Taylor Phillips, along with Matthew Hutchinson, and this is the 2022-2023 college men's basketball preview of the Michigan Wolverines and Michigan State Spartans. First of all, follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Like its Facebook page, subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, and listen in audio form on Spreaker. So let's get to it, Matt. So the Michigan State Spartans, just right now, they're in a close one against the Gonzaga Bulldogs in one of the Armed Forces games.
Yeah, they're playing great right now on Veterans Day. They typically do. It seems like each year Izzo has them on Veterans Day, and each year they play really well on it. They're playing great against Gonzaga. One of these days I'm going to figure out the lighting situation here so I don't look like Two-Face on Seinfeld, but appreciate you having me on. Let's jump into the Spartans right now because typical Izzo fashion, he has them going through a gauntlet early in the season. Before 2023 hits on the calendar, Michigan State's going to have ran through the who's who of college basketball as opponents already. We're talking about right now, they're playing Gonzaga, the number 2 team in the nation right now, playing great basketball. And I think no matter what, it never matters how a Michigan State team starts. It's always how it finishes. But if we want to talk about the last 7 years, Coach Izzo's record, last 7 years finishing up the month of March, 6-7. So maybe a problem for the Spartans fans. Who knows? He does walk on water and cure lepers if you hear most of them talk. But anyway, let's get into the season preview. Big thing going on right now with them is going to be finding who's going to get the buckets. You know, it's funny when we talked in the football season, we talked about who is going to be the playmaker on offense. And if it wasn't going to be Reed, who was going to be there to step up? And that's what I think Michigan State's going to struggle with their identity this year is who gets the buckets. Who's going to get the buckets in the last 5 minutes of the game? Now, they've got a great returning starter in Hogard in the backcourt. They're very good. They've got Hauser at the 4. They've got Sissoko to play the 5. And they've got Hall. I think it'll probably be a little bit of Hall and Brooks platooning at small forward. But I think the key to the entire team is going to be how quick can Jaden Adkins come back from his injury. If Jaden Adkins really isn't back until February, the Michigan State's going to be really rough that first part of Big Ten play, and that could hurt him. But if Adkins comes back by mid-December to where he's playing consistently, Michigan State's got a chance to win the Big Ten this year with that team because they've got a lot of veteran leadership in Hogard, Hauser. They've got guys that have played a lot of basketball in Sissoko and Tyson Walker as well.
Yeah, and if is the key word here. So
right. You know, last year I thought what would be their strength this year is having a guy like Max Christie on the team, but he left last year. I think that's the biggest loss for the Spartans this year is not having a guy like Christie, who frankly all last year was up and down. We never saw consistency. We never saw him be kind of a 3-level scoring threat like he was touted coming in. And again, he was only 18 years old, young guy, everything like that. I really thought he was going to come back for another year. And I think that's a really huge loss for the Spartans going into this season. So I think that was, we talk about their biggest losses and their biggest additions. The only thing I really see addition-wise for Michigan State this year, because I wasn't that impressed with the recruiting class, to be frank. I was really impressed with just from the scrimmage that I saw and from the exhibition games and what I saw in A.J. Hogard's game. I really feel like he's finally taken that next step that everyone was hoping he could take a season ago. And I think that that's going to be the key to their entire season is him being under 3 turnovers a game.
Yeah. And we'll have to see what happens down the road.
You're mesmerized by that game right now.
I was kind of listening. So,
right.
Yeah, right now it's 13-12 Gonzaga. First half, 10:55 left, the Peloton Armed Forces Classic.
Yep.
But Yeah, you got some good leaders: Hogard, Hauser, Sissoko.
Yep.
They'll have to step it up, trying to propel the rest of the team.
Yep. It's all going to be about that 5 position. If Sissoko is what people think he can be with rebounding and defense for the Spartans, I think that's going to help him out a ton because the Big Ten is the land of centers. It's almost like looking at basketball in the mid-'90s again, the way that some of their teams play. But it is the land of center. So they've got to have production at the 5. Hauser's going to be good for them. You expect near double-double average for the season, probably around the 12 and 8 range, points and rebounds for Hauser. So I'm excited to see what the Spartans do this year. Mr. November himself, Tom Izzo, 73-0 in the month of November at home.
Oh,
at home in the month of November. Mr. November himself, Tom Izzo, 73-0 in November. 6-7 though in the last 7 years at the end of March. So just something to think about for the Spartans fans.
In East Lansing,
that's really what I think about the Spartans this year. Everyone is saying Elite 8 expectations, maybe a Final 4 team. I'm going to tell you the ceiling for this team, because of the veterans they have in the backcourt, the experience they have with games played, I really think that you could be looking at seeing the Spartans lose in the first weekend of the tournament yet again this year. They are not going to get to the Sweet 16. I think you're going to see Hogard in the Big Ten tournament and in the NCAA tournament like usual. 5 to 7 turnovers in those games, and you're going to see Michigan State bow out early. That's my prediction right now against the Spartans.
Yeah, and you can't afford to have turnover machines. 5 to 7 turnovers. Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look in the games that they've lost in the last with AJ Hogard as their starting point guard in the games that he's played, he is averaging over 4 turnovers a game. You're not going to win a lot of basketball games with your point guard turning it over 4 times a game. Hopefully this year, though, as he's matured, maybe if he keeps that number under 3, the Spartans can go far. We're talking an Elite 8, maybe even a Final 4 team.
Yeah. How about the Michigan Wolverines? They kind of routed Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne. It was 75-56.
Yeah, I mean, they did what they should have done there. The Wolverines coming off a Sweet 16 trip last year that was really unexpected. I don't know that anybody – I mean, obviously, when I filled out my bracket, I had them going to the Sweet 16, but I'm the –
Gotta love the way Juwan Howard coaches his squad.
Yeah, there was a lot of problems with last year's squad. We were really reliant on a team to create their own shot and shoot threes. Unfortunately, we didn't have anybody that could create their own shot nor shoot threes consistently. So the Wolverines last year was the most disappointing Wolverines team of my entire life. Most frustrating, anyhow. Maybe not most disappointing. Certainly the most frustrating team to watch of the Wolverines in a long time. But they pulled it together near the tournament. Had a couple great weekends there. It was fun to watch. But the big thing with them this year, the Wolverines lost a freshman as well last year that a lot of people thought might come back in Caleb Houston. But the Wolverines really reloaded. We lost Diabate to the pros as well, but we reloaded. We've got Reed coming in at center, 6'10", 260. He's a horse in the middle. He's another guy that is a Big Ten land of the giant type center. Plays defense, rebounds, has a back to the basket game. He's not trying to shoot from 15 feet and out. He's a 15 feet and in guy. And then the youngest son of Juwan Howard coming in, Jet Howard coming in. He's going to start probably as a 6th, 7th man to start the season. But by mid-season, you're going to see him playing 25 and more minutes a game at that 3. And he's going to play lockdown defense. He plays senior level defense already, coming in as a freshman. So you're going to see consistent effort from him. He's got a high basketball IQ. I think a lot of people expect that. Coach's kid, dad, a lifer in the NBA. So I think a lot of people expect that. But we've also got Dougie McDaniel coming at point guard. He could be a really big deal for the Wolverines this year because, if we look at what happened last year with the point guard play and then Eli Brooks as well, the backcourt shot less than 30% from 3. With the way that this offense is designed, with the motion, you've got to shoot 35% or better from 3 for the entire team. You can't have those games where you're under that. And when your starting backcourt is shooting less than that for the entire year, that's going to be rough. Kobe has made a huge improvement. If you look at any of the summer stuff that was going on, he's really making a leap in his game as well. So the Wolverines, and we've got a Duke transfer coming along as well, and Joey Baker. So the Wolverines have a lot of talent, but it's going to be finding that rotation of 9 players and who's going to fit in there, because there's going to be an odd man out between Terrence Williams, Jace Howard, and the person I just mentioned as well with Joey Baker, the transfer from Duke. One person to keep an eye on, though, with the Wolverines is Yosef Kayat, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He was playing a semi-pro basketball last year. He's coming in to Ann Arbor. He's a no-star recruit because nobody had him really going anywhere. It was between Michigan, Gonzaga, and Virginia. He chose the Wolverines, and he's going to give them a lot of production at the 4 position. And he can shoot. He's like a Bojan Bogdanovic type of player. He can shoot, get a little bit rebound, but he's scrappy, plays defense, hit the 3. He's going to be a real big player for the Wolverines second half of the Big Ten season.
All right. So who do you think the Big Ten champion?
All right, the Big Ten champ this year, I'd love to say it's going to be the Wolverines. And with all that senior and junior players on the Wolverines, they definitely have a chance. But I actually see the Big Ten with, as far as the regular season goes, I think Indiana's going to have the best record, followed by Michigan, Michigan State, and then Purdue, somewhere in that 2, 3, and 4. I don't know. It could be jumbled anyway. I could see the Spartans at 2. Wolverines at 4, Purdue at 2, same thing. But in the Big Ten tournament, I think that's where you're going to see what Indiana has this year. I really think this is a huge year for the Hoosiers. I think they're a Final Four team. I think this is exactly what Mike Woodson came back to Bloomington to coach for. I think this is what Davis came back to play for as well this year. So I really like it, the Indiana Hoosiers this year. I like them to win the Big Ten regular season and the Big Ten tournament. My dark horse is Purdue. I just think when you have a guy like Zach Edey who's going to shoot 70% from the field, that's a real weapon to throw to in the post.
Yeah, don't forget Illinois.
You know what? I want to see it in the second half of the season and see what happens there, because my little feelers that are out there right now, there's a lot of dissension in that locker room. There's 10 different players that play, and 7 of them don't like each other. So that's a bad recipe. I think we've seen that on teams recently. Look at Memphis last year. 10 4- and 5-star players combined on that roster, and it took one of them leaving and going to Eastern Michigan. Are we going to talk about Eastern at all? We should maybe throw them in real quick, too, a quick season preview.
Michigan versus Eastern Michigan tonight at 9 inside Little Caesars Arena.
I'm just saying, if you're Imani Bates and you are what everyone has said you are for the last 6 years and what your dad has told everyone you are, this is a game you can't just show up. You have to show out. I don't want to hear about Imani turning an ankle or wanting to fit in with the team. If you're what everyone says you are, you're a top 5 player.
He's a great player, but he's only 1.
That's fine, but he's got to show out tonight. A great player has to have a great performance at some point. This kid's got to show out tonight. I don't expect the Eagles to compete with the Wolverines tonight. I think the Wolverines win that one pretty easy, but I really am interested to see if Imani Bates has that dog in him, because if he does, he's going to show up tonight. This is a big game for Imani tonight. I see Eastern having a chance to win the MAC this year, and everything is going to circle on the way Imani plays. I'm telling you, this is a huge game for that program tonight. What Imani Bates comes tonight is going to shape the way things go for the entire season for Eastern Michigan, and maybe the way that NBA scouts look at him too. This is a big deal. He's playing guys that play NBA defense tonight, so that's a big deal. But you know what? I got sidetracked because I want Imani Bates to be what they've said he was going to be. I really do. I want him to be everything they said he was going to be. But Big Ten Player of the Year, I think, is what we were going to next, right? I got us off track.
Big Ten Player of the season. Let's do it.
It's going to be Zach Edey. He's going to shoot over 70% from the field this year. He's going to have a true shooting percentage in the 80s because he knocks down his free throws. He's going to be over 18 points a game, over 15 rebounds a game. His conditioning is improved. He's done everything you'd want him to do from a maturity standpoint, got a little bit stronger, lost a little bit of body fat. I don't know that he's ever going to be an NBA star, but he's going to finish with one hell of a college career. And this year, he's going to be the Big Ten Player of the Year.
All right.
Just beating out Hunter Dickinson.
Hunter Dickinson, yeah. Yeah, he's a player to watch for the Wolverines, of course. I think he's.
I can't even believe I didn't really talk about him. Hunter isn't going to be the key to the Wolverines season because he is Mr. Consistency. They know every night what they're going to get from him. It's going to be 18 and 12 every single night from Hunter. But what they need is to knock down their threes. If we saw what happened last year, in games they were 35% and under, they lost 13 times last year.
Yeah, they did.
All there is to it.
All right, so that is it for the college men's basketball preview of the Michigan Wolverines and the Michigan State Spartans on the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Matthew Hutchinson. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Like its Facebook page, subscribe to its YouTube channel with its new handle, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, and listen in audio form on Spreaker. Special business shout-outs go to Cali Tickets. Call Mark Goldman at 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac, designing my Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on my t-shirt and long sleeve shirt, and many more to come. And United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan. The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast is a presentation of and production of Phillips Media. Matt, thanks very much. Everyone else, TTFN, ta-ta for now. Hit them with a high.